Your ancestors had a word for the corner of the settlement where nobody built a house, and archaeologists have spent a century digging through it, because that is where the truth about a civilization actually sits. Not the temples, not the palaces, the latrines. For most of human history, going to the bathroom was not a private act, and it was not a safe one. It was a decision, made several times a day, that could quietly kill you. And the way different peoples solved that problem tells you more about how they lived than any king's inscription ever will. There is a specific reason. A Roman citizen sat shoulder to shoulder with 20 strangers over a running trench and felt nothing strange about it. There is a reason a medieval Londoner paid rent for the privilege of a hole over a river. And there is one detail found in the dried waste of people who died thousands of years ago that changes what you thought about whether ancient plumbing actually worked. Hold that thought. It comes back. Start where the smell would hit you first. Rome, the baths of Caracalla, or one of the roughly 140 public latrines the city ran at its peak. You walk in and there is no door on a stall, because there are no stalls. A long stone bench runs along the wall with keyhole-shaped openings cut into it, spaced maybe 2 feet apart. The bench, water moves. Above it, people are talking. About the races, about a debt, about someone's brother. You sit, your neighbor sits. Nobody looks away, because there is nothing unusual to look away from. In front of the bench runs a narrow channel of clean running water, ankle deep. That is where the sponge goes. Tersor eam, a natural sea sponge lashed to a stick, is the piece everyone remembers, and the picture in your head is probably right in the worst way. Ancient sources, including Cesspit, describe the object clearly enough that we know it existed and know roughly how it was used. Whether every latrine shared one, or whether wealthier Romans carried their own, is genuinely argued over. What is not argued over is what happened to the people using them. This is where the story stops being funny. Piers Mitchell, a paleoparasitologist at the University of Cambridge, did something that had not been done properly before. He gathered every study he could find of parasites in Roman era remains across the empire, from coprolites, which is the technical word for fossilized human waste, from latrine sediment, from soil taken out of graves at the pelvis where the intestines used to be. Then he compared the Roman numbers to the numbers from the Bronze Age and Iron Age that came before. Rome had aqueducts, public baths, sewers, including the Cloaca Maxima, a drain so large it is still functioning under the modern city. Laws about street cleaning. By every standard you would apply, sanitation improved enormously. Parasites did not go down. Whipworm and roundworm, both spread by human waste getting into human mouths, stayed as common under Rome as they had been for centuries before. In some regions, they went up. Mitchell's 2015 review in the journal Parasitology laid it out plainly, and the finding is uncomfortable in a way that sticks with you. All that engineering, all that water, and the worms did not care. Sit with that a second, because it breaks the story everyone is taught. Why? Several reasons, and they compound. Roman sewage was often emptied straight onto farmland as fertilizer, which put the eggs right back onto the food supply. The public baths were warm, shared, and rarely drained, which made them excellent for transmission. And a stone bench with a shared sponge in a room used by hundreds of people a day is, in engineering terms, a very efficient machine for moving things from one person to another. Rome built the pipes. Rome did not understand the germ. Now walk about 1,000 years forward and one continent over into a city that stopped using stone benches entirely. Medieval London. If you were poor, you used a pot and you emptied it. And there were laws about where and when, and those laws were broken constantly. If you were comfortable, you had a garderobe, a stone chute built into an outside wall, dropping into a cesspit or a moat. If you were unlucky, you used a public latrine like the one on London Bridge, which discharged directly into the Thames, the same river the city drank from. The men who emptied the cesspits were called gongfarmers, and they worked at night, by law, because of the smell. They were paid well, unusually well, for unskilled labor, which tells you exactly how much everyone else wanted the job. And in 1326, a London man named Richard the Raker fell through the rotten planks of his own privy and drowned in the pit beneath it. That is in the record. A man died in his own waste because the wood gave out. You are probably starting to see the pattern, and you are probably about to be wrong about it. Because the assumption forming right now is that this was simply a story of ignorance, slowly corrected, filth to cleanliness, dark to light. That the further back you go, the worse it gets. Does not get worse the further back you go. Around 4,500 years ago, in the Indus Valley, in cities like Mohenjo Daro and Harappa in what is now Pakistan, ordinary houses had bathing floors. Not palaces, houses. Sloped brick platforms, sealed tight, draining through a pipe in the wall into a covered drain, running down the middle of the street, with inspection holes cut in the covers so the drains could be cleared. Many homes had a latrine of their own. That is roughly 2,000 years before Rome laid a single aqueduct. These cities have almost no monuments, no obvious royal tombs, no giant temple complexes, no carved inscriptions boasting about conquests. Archaeologists working the Indus sites, including Jonathan Mark Ken Oyer of the University of Wisconsin, have spent decades pointing out what the layouts actually show. An enormous, sustained citywide investment in water and waste, spread across neighborhoods rather than concentrated in a few grand buildings. A civilization that spent its wealth on drains instead of on kings. Brings back the thing left hanging earlier. The details sitting in the dried waste. Here it is, and it is the part that reframes everything. The Indus cities had extraordinary drains. Rome had extraordinary sewers. And where the deposits have been examined, the parasite eggs are still there. Mitchell's work found intestinal parasites across the Roman world, regardless of local infrastructure. The pattern shows up broadly in ancient populations that had impressive water systems. The plumbing was never the deciding factor, because a drain moves waste somewhere else. It does not make it harmless, does not stop the eggs surviving in soil for years, or riding back in on lettuce grown in fertilized ground, or passing between hands that were rinsed rather than washed. Every ancient society that got good at moving waste out of sight got good at exactly that, and no further. Out of sight is not the same as gone. It felt the same. That was the trap. The break did not come from better pipes. It came from an idea. In 1854, during a cholera outbreak in Soho, London, a physician named John Snow mapped where the dead lived and traced them to one water pump on Broad Street. He removed the handle. He could not see the bacterium and did not know its name. He had simply worked out that something in the water was doing the killing, and that was enough. 4,000 years of engineering had not managed what one map and one correct idea did. So think about what actually protects you now. Not the porcelain, not the pipe. What protects you is a piece of knowledge, absorbed so early that you no longer notice you are acting on it. That invisible things travel from waist to hands to mouth. That is why you wash. Not because it looks dirty. Because you have been told, and you believe, that something is there when nothing is visible. Every ancestor in this story was clean by the standard they could see. The Romans scrubbed at the baths. The Londoner emptied the pot down the street. The Harappan swept the bathing floor and watched the water run out through the wall. All of them did the right thing according to what they knew. All of them carried worms. You are not cleaner than them because you are more careful. You are cleaner because someone drew a map. And the corner of the settlement where nobody built a house is still the place where the truth sits. Only now it runs under your floor, and you have stopped thinking about it entirely, which is its own kind of luxury your ancestors never had. If the world you came from feels a little closer now, that's exactly the point. Subscribe, and every week we'll uncover another piece of who you used to be.